Hello everyone, welcome you once again. And outrightly, let me tell you that this is not a motivational video. This is a special series that we are going to make for you. In these videos, as you can see the title, I am going to tell you how to write better ethics answers for the questions that are given in the General Studies 4 in the UPSC Mains examination. So we will start with previous year question papers, and we will take up those questions which are very subjective in nature, at the same time which demand thinking on the spot. So if you have noticed these questions, the nature of these questions is such that they how much ever you read, it doesn't matter. When you are in the examination hall, these questions want you to think and recollect all your experiences, all your knowledge, all your concepts, and then interconnect them and weave a relevant answer. So that is the demand of these questions. And the core demand, apart from how you write, the core demand of these questions is to test your ethical competency. So UPSC wants an ethical candidate to be in the services. So that is the purpose why it introduced paper of ethics. In these answers to these so many diverse questions, you have a best chance to come out original, more ethical, more logical, and show your ethical competence to prove that you are perfectly suitable for the job. So, but what happens is that many people treat these questions as some other routine GS question and end up writing more facts than putting their soul into the answers. So, as I said earlier, to think on the spot is extremely important. But while thinking on the spot, you have to put your concern, your empathy, and soul into the answer. So, one or two things I want to discuss before I move into illustrating how to write a better answer. Treat each and every question. You know that there are two sections in the ethics paper, section A and section B. Section B is dedicated to case studies on the topics that are given in the case syllabus. Section A are descriptive questions. There are around 13 questions. So these 13 questions are of 150 words each. So every question comes with a different demand. There are code-based questions. There are questions which outrightly ask you to define and give examples. And there are questions which are hypothetical in nature. They will put you in a tricky position and ask your opinion. And there are questions which asks your viewpoint on particular pressing ethical issues of the day. So going forward in these video series, we will discuss all these kinds of questions. So one or two points that I wanted to make is that, number one, treat all these 13 questions as mini essays. You know that when you write an essay, say for 1800, 2000 words, you would like to bring as many dimensions, perspectives as possible, along with a number of examples, facts, and all those things. Same way, within 150 words, try to bring as many dimensions as possible. It is extremely important because I have seen many ethics answers where within 150 words, many people tend to either elaborate only one point or one concept and consume lots of words. So if you are writing a paragraph, that paragraph should have at least 4 to 5 dimensions. It starts with the introduction. Even the introduction must be very holistic, and there itself your ethical competence must be very evident. So in the introduction, along with your ethical competence, your understanding of the core demand of the question must be very evident. So in the following slide, I am going to show what kind of introduction must be written. So this is, you have to keep in mind. So the moment you start writing these answers, treat every question, because these questions are kind of open-ended, except one or two very specific questions. They are open-ended and they demand an essay-like treatment. So 150 words should have a proper introduction, a body divided into many subparts, and a conclusion which is drawn out of the body that you write in the answer. So let us move to the next. So the very first question that was asked in the UPSC ethics question papers was, what do you understand by values and ethics? In what way is it important to be ethical along with being professionally competent? So the question has two parts. One is minor part and another is major part. While reading the question, you must allocate, mentally the amount of words, the amount of space that you are going to give to each part of the question. Sometimes statement based questions will not come with any parts. In that case, you will have to divide your own parts. So that I will deal with another question when we take up that kind of example. Here, two parts are visible. The first part is minor part. So it is asking you to just express your understanding of the two keywords. Second one is asking you to think and then interlink two concepts, one ethics and professional competence. So it is asking you why they are important, right? So as I said earlier, you have to treat it as a mini essay. So while thinking about the answer, so you should start with the introduction, which should be very holistic, should address both the parts of the question, not just the single part. So many candidates have this tendency that they might directly start with defining what is values and what is ethics. So that is wrong approach. You must start with a introduction of at least 20 words. So for example, you can write something like, ethics and values help both individuals and also oneself. So this is important, oneself and organizations to flourish without harming either resources or other beings. This is something which addresses holistically. So you can also bring the point of being professionally competent. You can say that ethics and values, when coupled with professional competency and efficiency, can make lives better of both themselves, other individuals, and also organizations. Yeah, and also you can add something like they can create a peaceful environment for everyone to flourish. You can also say that conflict free environment for people to realize their developmental goals, something like this. The introduction should be very broad. The issue which, while being relevant to the question, it should also bring something of value within the introduction. It shouldn't be just the, it shouldn't be redundant, repeating what is there in the question or what is going to be there in the body. So write a thoughtful introduction. It comes with practice. And then the body. So body has two parts. So one part is for the first part of the question, to explain the understanding of what you understand by value and ethics. You note the question, it is not asking you what you understand by the terms values and ethics. If the word term was there, you should have just defined and then moved away to the question. It is asking you to understand. So understanding means, again you have to give holistic treatment. So I said you have to come up with more dimensions. So one way is you can come up with a table like format as illustrated in the image here. So you can create three columns. One is values and another is for ethics, and then here about their nature. So with definition about utility and the nature of these two key terms, and the examples and the types. So definition, for example, you can say that values are a set of personal beliefs which are used to judge what is important and what is unimportant or something, right? And then ethics is study of moral principles, or set of principles, or a framework which framework of moral principles which helps an individual to decide what is right and wrong, something like that. Using very keywords of ethics and jargon, you have to write very briefly. And then utility means something like, what is the use of values, what is the use of ethics. So here ethics, the use of ethics can be in terms of code of conduct, in terms of for example, our constitution is has certain utility. So the easy way to define or differentiate is, if you take a constitution as a document of ethics, then values like fraternity, secularism, and whatnot, everything that is there in the preamble can be values. So values is kind of subset of ethics. So you can talk about in terms of how they are useful, to make society peaceful, trustworthy, lovable, happy, and all those things. And then the nature. So nature with respect to values is deeply personal, subjective. It changes with time. It changes with generations. Something like that. Ethics. The nature of ethics is about how the institution works, how the society has belief systems, traditions, cultures, and it gets reflected in the ethics. It can be a document, it can be kind of a tradition, right? And then examples for values. Courage is a value, ambition is a value, love is a value, trust, happiness, so dignity, all these are values. And then for example for ethics, it can be uh, you know you can give example from both normative ethics, applied ethics, and meta ethics. So for example, applied ethics, you can talk about issues related to abortion, issues related to capital punishment, and stem cell research, and all those things. And then about the types, values are like personal values, cultural values, and then universal values. And there are like institutional values, professional values. So many things are there. Those types you can mention it here. And ethics types means the things I mentioned: meta ethics, normative ethics, and there are applied ethics and all those things. For everything you mention here, try to give one word example. So you should consume around around 50 words this particular part. And then write the subheading about importance of ethics and professional competency. The question is asking, in what way is it important to be ethical along with being professionally competent, right? So you have to create around 4 to 5 parts here with subheadings. One is, for example, I written some random words here. Trust, for example, if you are both ethical and professionally competent, efficient, productive, what it does is it builds trust among individual. So the question is not about with respect to civil servant, it is also with respect to private service also. Professionally means you can be a doctor, you can be an IT professional, or you can be an IAS officer. So how it helps you to be professionally competent while being ethical? So it creates trust between you and your customers, you and citizens, you and institution, you and your superiors. So there are various stakeholders, you can mention them. So these are the dimensions I'm talking about. It's not, you cannot just mention that in one line it builds trust, so that doesn't get too much weight. Then the growth and development, it results in the growth of the institution, growth of your own self. It helps you grow as well, because if people know that you are a upright person, you are person of integrity and probity, ethical person, people come to you. And at the same time, if you're competent, if you're incompetent and ethical, nobody will come to you. Or if you're competent and unethical, of course some people might come to you. Again, you attract the like-minded people, not everyone. So you talk about in that sense. And then it's about dignity and upholding values. How the importance of being ethical and competent is that it brings dignity and upholds other values of something like happiness. I have mentioned, it brings happiness to everyone. And then the sustainability, a competent person and ethical person knows how to use resources optimally without wasting resources of the government or his organization and of the people. And they save time, they save resources, they save property, they save lives. So now for all these five, we can give a common example. For example, the migrant issue. So if you are responsible to deal with a migrant issue in your district, so if you are both ethical and competent, so you will gain the trust of these people and the government. If you treat them very well, if you treat them with dignity, they will love you back. And the growth in terms of the economy can limp back, the migrants can come back to your district. So once you facilitate very smoothly their travel and food and solve their hunger problems. And then the sustainability in terms of how you can create better jobs without wasting too much of resources, and something related to how you can mobilize resources without producing excess which already exists. The models, something like in Kerala, one IAS officer used extra the food that was supposed to be wasted to distribute it to hungry people. And then happiness, you see the happiness on the people of the migrant children, any hapless, any poor, any destitute people. So that is the ultimate reward. So like that, with an example, you have to compulsorily, with an example you have to illustrate. Without example, even if you write so much of theoretical stuff, your answer is going to get very less marks, like 2 to 3 marks. With example, you can get 6 marks out of 10 marks. And in the conclusion, again, conclusion should be very thoughtful. You can write something like you can bring the other dimension. It is very difficult to be both ethically competent, both professionally competent, and at the same time ethical. However, being so uh, can be or it can be made possible with right upbringing in a very peaceful, conflict free, and very intellectual and very peaceful environments, something like that. It is possible to raise children who are ethical and professionally competent, who can go on to become better citizens if they are being brought up in a system which is very conducive for their overall growth, both physical, intellectual, mental, and all those things. So something like this, with an example, you can end up. So this is the overall framework, and so to discuss it took around 15 minutes. And with practice, you can bring these many dimensions. Hope I did justice to a little bit of your expectation. As we move forward to different types of questions, we will come up with more examples, and there will be separate set of videos to teach you the core concepts. So here there is not much opportunity to teach the core concept. We will make separate videos. For example, there will be videos separately to tell you what is the difference between values, ethics, and morals, right? So wish you all the best. What you can do is that while watching this video, tomorrow I'm going to tomorrow or in the next video I'm going to discuss the second question of 2013 UPSC question paper. You write the answer based on today's understanding, keep it ready. So when I discuss the answer, compare it with my answer, my whatever you call model answer or synopsis. So try to write far better than answer than what I'm going to tell you, and treat me like a fool, and you always treat yourself as a better intellectual person and come up with a very good answer. Thank you very much. Keep writing, keep busy, and keep yourself safe. Thank you.